But let's see. What was that? Johnson. Okay. Uh, Anyway, we're shy about 11 people, but I hope that they will join us. But if not, we're going to move on. I've got it recording now. And I pray that everything works right tonight and that it doesn't have internet problems. But anyway, uh, as I was telling the others before some of you came on, Dr. Revis will join us in a few minutes. She's the chair of her school board in her district, and she just had a long board meeting today, and she's on her way back, and she will join us just as soon as soon as she can get to a computer. But anyway, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Um, let me share my screen, and you have access to this. But I want to the weekly schedule. Where is it? Okay. Well, let me see. That's not where I want. Let me come out of that. I thought I had posted it, but I didn't. Okay. Here I am. Let me come out of that and go to. If you don't talk to yourself now already, if you don't talk to yourself now, you will as you get older. It just becomes a habit. So here we are. Well, I didn't. Give me 1 second, guys. I need to put that in there. I thought I had put it in there, but I did not. Let me pull it up. Upload documents. Okay, here we are. It's slow. While it's populating, I want to say first of all, um, for my class and for Dr. Revis's class, I've been able to keep up with all of you as well. There are a few that still. I've got one in my class, and Dr. Revis has, I think, about 5 that she's still working with uh, uh, the Turnitin and with submission to task screen for final evaluation. But out of the 2 classes, there's 25 of you that have remained in the class. And I will tell you that out of the 25, 18 between my class and Dr. Revis's class has scored perfect scores on the AAPTEL, and that is commendable. We're hoping that of the remaining 7 that we can be consistent with that, but that's commendable. A job well done. And just to think, 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago, many of you thought, I can never do this. I can never do this. You went the first 2 or 3 weeks thinking, this is beyond, and you thought about quitting several times. but look what you've accomplished. Now, this was not my evaluation, and it was not Dr. Revis's evaluation. This went to the third-party anonymous evaluator. This is for DPI, and this is for that evaluation. So to be able to score a 4 without having to send anything back for revision or consideration, and sometimes they do that, sometimes they don't. Again, I want to say a job well done. And I hope you realize that all the pushing, the prodding, the sendbacks, asking you to redo this, I hope you understand now why we did that, because it was necessary for you to be able to accomplish what you accomplish. And those that listen and have done what we asked, this is the result. So again, we're looking forward to the remaining ones. Just remember that should have been completed by Sunday night, but I know I'm working with the one person in my class, and Dr. Revis is working with the others to try to get it done. But just want to talk about some of the issues that we're having to deal with, and we mentioned this. And please know that once it goes to Turnitin is, that's not Gardner-Webb, that's not Dr. Stebbins, that's not Dr. Revis, that's not the state of North Carolina. That is a national and international tool that's used. And if artificial intelligence shows up, it means that something's wrong. And I'm not singling anybody out. I'm saying this to anybody because you've still got a lot of work to do this semester and in this program. Artificial intelligence is not allowed. In fact, in the doctoral program, they have to sign a disclaimer or just sign something up front, saying, it can terminate you from the program. So you need to be very mindful of that. It needs to be your work, and it needs to be authentic work from you. And remember that if there's people from your school that have been in the program and they share work with you and you use it, it's going to show up. It's going to tell us. It actually tells us who it is and the semester that they were in school, and it's going to show us exactly, what is the same. Now, what will be the same is going to be your school profile. The demographics are going to be the same. So if that shows up, we understand that. So we move forward beyond that. But the work itself, remember, it must be your work and not somebody else's. And another problem is if you have not properly cited work, then it will show up as that you have copied work or you have plagiarized. So make sure that your citations are correct in all that you do. But with that in mind, just these are things that as we're clearing up things now, but as we're moving forward, these are things that you need to remember. Okay. Just a reminder of case study 1. That is, we gave you this week as an extension. I know I have one team in my class that has already done it, and some of them have already started submitting their work, but that must be submitted no later than Sunday of this week. So please make sure you adhere to what you're supposed to do with the case study. Does anybody have any questions about that before we move on? Any questions? Okay. I'm going to come back to this mid-semester feedback to GWU. When Dr. Revis gets here, we're going to talk about the task string competency folio and the internship, that information. And then we will be moving into the AAPTEL, which I will actually go ahead and get started with that prior to her signing on, and then we will get actually into task 1 and task 2 when she gets here, and how to set up your Qualtrics. But I'm going to start. I'm going to minimize this, and then I want to come back to well, actually, I don't. I just want to go back out of this. And when you go to Module 8, which is today in your course shell, I want you to notice this is your agenda, and I'll put the video in there for future reference today. But I want you to look at, there's some Qualtrics information in there. I want you to look here. This is provided by Gardner Webb. It says course feedback. This is a mid-semester request. It's not active yet, but I want you to just continue to look, and I will continue looking. And when I know that it's active, I will send out, and Dr. Revis will send out a message to you telling you that the course feedback is active, and it's just asking you to go in there and to provide feedback about the course and about the program up to this point. Up to this point, it's just, just giving them good feedback and giving us feedback about things as well. So please take the time to do that whenever it becomes open. I'm assuming that it's going to open up sometime this week. I'll actually check with Dr. Stone tomorrow to make sure of that. Let's go back to syllabus policies and other course information. Just like for the APTEL, you will have all the APTEL resources here. So you need to camp out here. I'm going to click on here because I want to show you something. I will actually, Dr. Revison, I will actually use this tonight. This just short PowerPoint. The helpful hints document is there. We will use that as well. This is in here whenever you get to the end of the semester. I'm going to show you this. This is the AAPTEL scoring rubric, and this tells you what you must do to be accomplished. And I'm going to go over that as well. This is your AAPTEL template. And again, we put this back in here again, the professional dialogue starters for your work with the AAPTEL the next few weeks. We'll be referring to Marzano, high yield strategies, instructional strategies. So this is where you will find those documents whenever we refer to them. These are the links that will be, there's again the link for the Dover Library, your APA editing checklist, the PowerPoint, and then we're going to talk to you about Qualtrics tonight. When we do, this is where you can find that information. This is a video that Dr. Lamb put together, but he's speaking, it doesn't matter. He's speaking to doctoral students, but how you get into Qualtrics and set it up is no different for any student. But what I did, I went and let me show you this. He said, you fast forward to 4 minutes and 30 seconds when you look at that. But I went back to the spring semester and I found the video where Dr. Lamb presented to our students then. And he's actually talking to 601 students. And in this video, it's a lot of other stuff, but if you'll fast forward to approximately 56 minutes into this video, you'll find Dr. Lamb, he introduces Qualtrics and he shows you, he goes into the process, he shows you step by step what you have to do to set it up. And we're going to refer to that in just a little bit. I just want you to know where you find it. And then this is a narrative of the Qualtrics notes. What he's talking about there, he's put it in writing here, step by step. And then I'll refer back to this document later on as well, because you'll be using this in task 1 and task 2 of the AAPTEL, but you'll also find this in your helpful hints as well. So these are the documents at this point that you'll be using for the AAPTEL. The one thing that you did not see that you saw with the AAPTEL, you don't see a completed AAPTEL, but it doesn't matter. You've got the AAPTEL to model for setup. The structure's the same. Remember that when you're going through the template, remember that if it's in black, what happens?
That's the thing.
It stays the same. Thank you, Solomon. If it's in yellow, what do you do? Anybody?
Erase it.
No, not the yellow. What do you do if you see if you see yellow in the
You take the yellow off.
you take the
That's
yellow
what I meant,
off,
sorry.
but what is it there for? What is it telling you to do? What does the yellow tell you got to do?
Put the information in.
You got to write something.
Yeah.
It's narrative work. It's your authentic work, your research, your work. That's all of your work. If you see yellow in there, and then you take the yellow out afterwards. And what about red? What does red tell you to do?
Take it away.
No. What is it there for? What is it in there for? Why do you?
They're
Why
just
is
notes for us.
That's notes for you. You take the advice, you use what you
Yeah.
need to use, and then once you use it, what do you do with the red?
Delete it.
You delete it, you take it out. Thank you. That's just a reminder. Let me minimize this. Everybody clear about what you can find with the AAPTEL documents, where you find things? Does everybody know where you go and find your resources? Okay. Okay. Let me go here to, let me go here for just a minute. The AAPTEL is the second of 6 evidences that you'll do in this program. In the first one, remember the AAPTEL, everything that you did was an analysis, an action plan for student learning. Everything you did was focused on the students, and the focus was on student achievement. And all of you, because most of you are in the classroom, or you have been in the classroom, you work directly with students. That was, there was a lot of familiarity with that. That the AAPTEL, while we still have focuses on everything we do, there's a focus on student achievement. What you're doing this time is an analysis and action plan looking at teacher empowerment and teacher leadership in your school. Now, you're going to be doing some trench work with this. You're going to be doing research first, then you're going to do some trench work. But remember, I talked to you early in the semester, or Dr. Revis and I did, and we said that you had to take off the teacher hat and you had to put on the principal hat. You still got your principal hat on, but because many of you are teachers, you look at the role of the teacher, and you can think, as a teacher, this is what I experience, but you've got to go up a step higher than that, and you've got to look at this from the lens of an administrator. So you can't camp out there that I'm a teacher, whatever. You've got to lead as an administrator as you're looking at what teacher empowerment looks like in your school. What
Hi,
teacher?
Dr. Stedman. I'm
Hey,
here.
welcome, Dr. Revis. And I'm glad you're here. I've just pulled up your document, and I was just telling them. First of all, I bragged on them. Out of your class and my class, at this point, as of this afternoon, we had 18 students that had successfully submitted to task stream, and everything at this point is fours. That's 18 out of 25 students with fours between your class and my class. And we know that we're working with some because of some issues. Dr. Revis, I went over the AI concerns, student work from previous semesters, proper citations. I went over all that already. Was there anything else that you wanted to say to them before, in looking at things?
I don't think so. I am working with a couple of
Right,
students
right.
to tidy up a few things, and once we do that, I think we're well on our way to getting those submissions completed as well. So I
Just
was really pleased with
yeah, but just
um,
remember all
the
that
things.
we should be clearing up with everybody with the APTEL this week, no later this week. So we're not going to camp out there anymore, except doing the things that we're having to do with the issues that we're concerned with. But Dr. Revis, I was telling them that they had to put on another set of lenses and take on the role of an administrator, looking at teacher empowerment and teacher leadership in their schools. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this up, Dr. Revis, and if you would, this is something you created. If you'll just give them a glance, and then we'll start breaking it down.
Okay, well, good evening, folks. This is not my peak performance time. I have been in a school board meeting since 2 o'clock this afternoon and just walked in. So please be patient with me as I change my hats and get focused here on this. First of all, your AAPTEL, of course, you're looking at teacher leadership and empowerment, but here are some differences. There are only 4 tasks to this evidence work. You have your first task where you're going to be completing a lot, identifying a checklist and a survey. You do not convene a PLC in task 1. Then in task 2, you're actually going to collect some data using that survey and checklist that you identified in task 1, and you're going to analyze the data and identify gaps. Again, you do that without PLC work. And then when you get to task 3 is where you bring your PLC together again, and you can use the same PLC that you used in the APTEL. That's fine if people will hang with you. And then what you're going to do is share your data that you collected and analyzed, share the gaps that you identified, and then lead that PLC to develop and design an action plan. The action plan is the same template that we used on the APTEL, so that's going to be very familiar to you. And then you present that action plan to your admin team or to the school improvement team. And then task 4 is your competency reflections on the remaining 9 competencies, just like you did in the APTEL in task 5. So you are going to see a lot of similarities as far as the templates, as far as you've got to do a lot of research. You have to still use APA, and you're going to be collecting data. Remember, that's the first step we always do whenever we look at anything as far as improvement in your school. You're going to collect data and analyze it and identify gaps, and then you look at facilitating that PLC to developing your action plan.
Okay. As a reminder, and Dr. Revis, if my internet gets, just pick up where I leave off. But
Okay.
just a reminder, or just introducing this, remember, there's nothing due this week for the AAPTEL. You get started on the AAPTEL, and then you we don't have class next week, but you have to work still. You're going to understand why we're introducing task 1 and task 2 simultaneously. You'll understand how they all work hand in glove once we introduce it. But just remember, you don't wait until next week to get started. We're telling you now. So, like Dr. Revis said, for the next 2 weeks, you don't have to work with your PLC at all. Not this week, and then over the next 2 weeks, you won't need your PLC at all. And then the third week, you'll pick back up in it. But since we're not going to be coming together as a class next week, for the rest of this week and the next 2 weeks, you will be working independently on the task that we are going to be introducing this evening. It's a lot. Where it's a lot, but I think once we get through explaining task 2, I think you'll look back and you'll see how it all fits together. So don't get stressed out when you look at 2 tasks, and remember, you've got more time to work on this than just 1 week. Just go ahead and get started after today on this. Okay, so I'm going to minimize that. And Dr. Revis, at the end, be thinking about this. We're going to come back for just a few minutes and talk about the internship requirements again for just a few minutes when we close out. But I want to pull up. Let me do this just to show you the AAPTEL template. Remember, nothing is just the evidence number 2. The title's different there. This is the template, your name here. That's the only thing. You'll still use the same school profile that you use with evidence 1. And then it goes the same format. And we've already talked about with yellow, narrative work, red, those are hints for you. And if it's in black, it stays the same. So do not deviate from using the template. I told them, Dr. Revis, the difference is they don't have a completed AAPTEL like they had a completed APSL, but they should know what to do now. And you can always go back and model after the work that you've already done, because the formatting is not going to be any differently. APA is not going to change. It's the same requirements. So don't backslide on us and forget that you know how to do APA now. So, sometimes that happens with task 2, doesn't it, evidence 2, doesn't it, Dr. Revis?
It does.
So don't.
It does. And let me just say this. If I'm repeating something you've already said, I apologize.
No, go ahead.
Do not write your work in a Google Doc. Do not. Because if you do, when you try to transpose it or transfer it to a Word document, it's going to get all messed up. Margins, everything. So do your work. If you do your work in the template, that's a Word document, you're going to be fine. That's just something you're going to have to do here.
And everybody, make sure you submit it to us in a Word document. We can't even give proper feedback to you on work when you don't submit it as a Word document. So make sure you submit it as a Word document. Savannah, before I move on, you have a question?
Yes. So this might be clear as you go a little more in depth, but I just want to put on your radar before you start talking about it that we still aren't back in school. We won't be back until sometime maybe mid next week. And I'm just wondering how I'm going to be able to do all this. And the very first day after teachers are out for 20 school days here's a survey about blah, 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 so that's just something that I might need to talk to you about a little bit.
Yeah, but I think don't overthink it. I think you'll be okay, and we'll figure out something. Okay. But don't stress over it, and don't overthink it. Because it's not going to be a difficult survey to begin with. And I'll talk with you personally about that. Okay. Okay. When we went through COVID, we had to do some things as well. So we kind of are operating the same way. Let's look at your helpful hints. Let me see. Okay, Dr. Revis, if you would go ahead and start out with task 1. Again, I've said all this already, so that we don't have to repeat that. So let's start with.
So in your template, it asks for you to do it, that they don't call it a school profile, but it is the school profile. You do that and you can use the same school profile. Be sure you are documenting where you get your data and information in your school profile, because if you don't, you're going to get hit with your Turnitin report. So be sure you do that. All right. So here's the first thing you do. You have to do a mini literature review on 5 topics. Now I'm going to go through the topics, and each of these topics you have to have a minimum of 3 references. Now we're going to go through and we will tell you on some of these topics that you must have a particular reference. And then there's 2 you can choose from. But the first one is building efficacy and empowerment among staff. Complete a literature review. Just do Bulldog 1 search and look for building efficacy and empowerment. Now, here are some authors that we would like to see for building efficacy. Bandura. He is considered to be the seminal researcher with building efficacy. Bandura. For teacher leadership, what was the other part of my topic?
Okay, Patty is
empowerment.
Right.
Empowerment. Here are some suggestions. Hattie has a lot of work on teacher empowerment and teacher efficacy, as well as Todd Whitaker. Todd Whitaker has a lot of stuff on teacher empowerment. But the one you must have in there is Bandura. And it will be, if he's a seminal researcher, he's not going to be in the last few years. His is going to be a little older than that. Now notice, I don't forget my APA. Look how I do my citations, in-text citations. It's not the author's first name. You never see an author's first name, but you do see Hattie in parentheses. APA always follows the rule of author's last name and then the date. Okay.
And this
is just an example.
And that's just an example, right?
Yeah. Now, the first thing you're going to say is, well, how much should I write on each section? Well, that's up to you. But I would say developed paragraphs, cohesive paragraphs. You are not doing an annotated bibliography where you cite a resource and then just put in what you found and describe what's the information in the resource. You're writing a narrative. Now, the next topic is results-oriented professional.
I will tell you, your evaluators are pretty hard on this section. And we've had students that, because there is so much research here, they have scored them at a 3, and they said it was minimal research, that they didn't feel like that they had covered the topics well enough. So don't let that happen to you. Okay.
Okay, results-oriented professional development. One of your seminal researchers here is Hammond, Hammond. Her first name is Linda / Darling Hammond. She's considered a seminal researcher. There are also many others out there that are more recent, but most have built their work and their research on Hammond. So I think the evaluators are going to look for Hammond. I know I am.
Right.
If you've got Hammond in there and 2 others, I'm fine.
And again, before we move on,
Again, Hammond, there are 3 or more authors with Hammond. That's why you see that et al. Remember, that is Latin for and others.
and just remember, as Dr. Revis moves on, at this point, it's not what you think, it's what the research says about these areas, not what you think.
Right. This is all research. Don't tell me what you're doing at your school. Don't want to know that. We want to know what the research says. Your third area to research is recruitment, placement, and mentoring of school staff. Now, there are 3 kind of topics here. It's about recruitment, placement, and mentoring. So don't leave, don't leave one of those out of your literature review. Your textbook is a good resource here.
You see this? Oven and all.
Right. And another one that we see a lot here about recruitment and mentoring is Ingersoll. I don't know if this particular person used Ingersoll, but I don't have really any. And there's Ingersoll, 2004. I don't really have any seminal researchers here that I would be looking for, but you need to make sure you address the research in those 3 areas: recruitment, placement, and mentoring. Again, this is not what you do in your school. This is what the research says. Your fourth area, approaches to or for evaluation of school staff. I don't want to know all about the evaluation instrument in North or South Carolina. I want to know what the research says is a research-based approach to evaluation. Marzano is one that I would expect to see there. In fact, our North Carolina rubric for school executive school leaders is based on Marzano's work. So I would expect to see Marzano's there. And there are other things. Now, remember, evaluation is not just that formal evaluation. It can be walkthroughs and feedbacks and feedback, those kinds of things as well. But we don't want a summary of the teacher evaluation instrument in North Carolina or South Carolina. And the last topic is teacher leadership and decision making. Again, a minimum of 3 references. And the seminal researcher here would be Whitaker, Todd Whitaker. And I would want to see his name in this research, in this section. There are 2 others that you can choose from, but I would like to see him there as well. And remember, teacher leadership and decision making needs to be explained. Now, if you've got 5 sections, 3 references each, your reference section is going to have at least 15 references. Go ahead and put them in alphabetical order. And there's once again those 3 seminal researchers that I have mentioned that we should be seeing, and making sure that you're following correct APA. Now, prompt 2. Any questions on prompt 1? Just research. Sam?
Raised his hand, yeah.
Yeah, so if we use, like, so for Whitaker, if we use him for multiple of the topics, do we still need to have 15 total somehow in there for the total references?
No, Sam, go ahead, Dr. Revis.
I would think that when you're talking about different topics, you're going to get different pieces of his work. So
Mhm.
even though the author is going to be the same, you're going to cite a different
Okay,
piece of his
different
work.
Right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Any other questions?
That was a good question, though, Sam. Thank you for asking that.
All right. Prompt 2. Now I want to underscore this verb. Create. You will create a checklist, some type of walkthrough checklist and a survey. In task 1, you do not administer the survey or complete the checklist. Let me repeat that, because some people are going to go do that. You identify it in task 1, you administer it and complete it in task 2.
Dr. Revis,
Okay.
let's go ahead and talk about the survey first of all. And I've created another document that's got the same information on it, and it's under this week as well. And Dr. Revis have put it under here. The word create for this is a little bit misleading, because we have since there was a time when we did allow that, but that preceded when we began to use Qualtrics. And so we made a decision that for the survey purposes, we're making life easier for you. Everybody will use this survey. So it will be the same 5 questions for everybody. And what we're doing is, and Dr. Revis will talk to you about these 5 questions, but we're basically introducing you to the survey process required by Gardner Webb, because you will have to use this, in subsequent semesters as well. But this basically introduced you. We're going to show you how to go in and set up Qualtrics and what you have to do. But we've made life easier for you. Every one of you will have this same this survey, and it'll be a figure for you. This information can be the same, just as we've got it there. So this is going to make it easier for you, Dr. Revis.
Now you going to choose this survey, but you need to give a little lead-in narrative. The following survey from Whitaker, and there's your date right there, will be utilized in task 2 of the AAPTEL to analyze best practices for teacher empowerment and school leadership. Now, you say it in your own words, because if you use this, then you're going to get dead in. And we're also going to say that the survey was created in Qualtrics. Now, we'll come back to Qualtrics in just a moment, but are we clear? Everybody's going to identify and use the same survey. We good?
Okay, and Savannah, you see, all we're doing is asking for 5 questions. So that's going to make life a lot easier as we're doing it. And we'll talk more about it. Notice this. With the survey, notice in this column, we're only doing a yes or no. Notice what comes first. No, and then yes. This is a requirement when doing surveys, Qualtrics surveys. Your no column comes first, and your yes column will come second. So make note of that, so that when you set yours up, that you do that.
Okay, now let's talk about the checklist. I really think that's a misnomer as well, because don't look at this number 3. You're not gonna pull questions to survey on the working condition survey. You're gonna use that same survey.
Step out right
The
here.
checklist is a little misnomer. What it is really a walkthrough instrument. Okay. Now, if your school has a walkthrough tool that they use the school's instrument. If your school already has a walkthrough tool that has been approved by the school, you've been using it, or it could be approved by the district and been using it, then that's what you use. But you're going to complete at least 5 informal walkthroughs. Not in task 1, that's in task 2. You're just identifying the check, the at this point.
Dr. Revis, while we're here, put in the chat box, just put in there, if your district already has a walkthrough instrument, put yes. If they don't have one, put no. I want to see.
Right. I think walkthroughs are such a valuable practice that most schools now are using a walkthrough checklist. So if you don't have a school walkthrough checklist, then we're going to tell you what to use. Let's scroll on down, Dr. Stedman.
Okay.
I'm getting a big black bar in my screen. There you go. Thank you. Okay, let's scroll on down and let's look at the one that you default to if you do not have a walkthrough checklist.
Trying to get it to go down, and I can't get it to go down. Let me try over here. Here it is.
There we go.
Okay, here we go.
This is Marzano's high yield strategies checklist. Okay. And to the left are best practices. And then you're going to go into 5 classrooms and you're just simply going to say, yes, I saw this, or no, I did not.
Dr. Revis, let's go back, because I think we changed it because they've gone through so much. Let's go ahead and just say that we will accept 3 classrooms, and if you can do 5,
Okay.
that'll be better. Let's just 3 classrooms because
Okay.
of what everybody's dealing with.
Okay, that's fine. That makes sense. Okay, so we're going to do 3 classroom walkthroughs. And then what we're going to do is you will actually identify this in task 1. That's all you're doing. Identify this in task 1. And again, put in a little lead-in paragraph, what you've decided to do and where it comes from. If it's your own checklist, that's great. Just write about it, that this is the checklist we use in our school, and this is a checklist that I'm going to use in the AAPTEL.
Right.
All right, let's stop right now and see if there are any questions. Let me look at the chat box.
Okay, Dr. Revis, let me, and I hope it doesn't internet. Just remember, hold just a second, Stuart. Just remember, prompt 1, all you're doing is research. What does the research have to say? In prompt 2, there's two things you have to do. One of them both of them we've done for you, and all you've got to do is use what we're giving you in prompt 2. The survey, the 5 questions for the prompts for the survey, that's a requirement of everybody. So it's there. All you got to do is just take what we've got there and put it in your work. If you have your own walkthrough, then you need to use what your district has provided, and that's what you'll put there. If you don't have a walkthrough, we've given you what you need to use. So don't deviate from that. It's either you've got a walkthrough or you use what we've got there. Okay, Stuart?
Yes, sir. I was so even if my school has its own walkthrough checklist, am I still using Marzano's high yield strategies checklist?
No, you use your school's checklist if they've got a checklist. This is only for those schools that do not have a walkthrough instrument. Okay. Okay, good question. Anything else? Dr. Revis, what did you see when you went to how many did most of them have a checklist or didn't have a check?
Yes, most of them had it. One person said, I don't know. And if you don't know, I mean, to me, that's an indicator that even if you have one, you're not using it. So you
Right.
go check with your school administrator in the morning and see if you don't have one, then I would use Marzano's.
Right.
If you do have one, but they haven't ever used it, it doesn't matter. You can use theirs, yours, or you can use Marzano's.
Right. Salida?
So I wanted to make sure I understood. So the checklist that's there, if we have our own at our school, we can delete that checkbox and put our own information there, or do we need to keep?
No, you put whatever you use is what you put in there. You
Okay,
only do it like this if you don't have one.
So for that particular section where it had the chart, right? So our school uses an electronic form. That's not necessarily something you can download. So what would that look like for that?
You've got to show the checklist because you're going to have to show the results. Is there not something that you can? Is it a long? Is it a long document?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
you just probably gonna have to type it in, Salida.
Okay. Or could I do a screenshot? Could I do screenshots from because it's a Google form that we got from the district.
Dr. Stedman, that's your call.
Just remember, whatever you do, it's got to have a very professional look when you put it in your work.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So send me something and let me look at it ahead of time, Salida. Just send it to me. Just send me an email and let me know that it's there and let me look at what you're talking about. Okay.
Okay. No problem.
Okay. There was somebody else. Savannah, do you have another question?
I'm good. I just want to make sure you could see Salida's little icon like blending into her curtain.
Okay. Okay. Got you. Okay. Any more questions before we move on? Okay. Dr.
Now,
Revis,
guys,
go ahead.
Do we want to go to Qualtrics first?
Yes. I'm sorry. We were going to do that. Let me minimize this.
Well, no, yeah, let's go to Qualtrics first. Before you start task 2, which is your data collection, you must get your survey in Qualtrics and approved by Dr. Stowe.
And Dr. Revis, I've already shown them where they go in their course shell to find the Qualtrics information under the AAPTEL documents. This is and did you see where I sent that message last night where I pulled the video from spring semester where Dr. Lamb went into our course shell and went through this process with them? Okay, so that will go in. Their course shell is ready. I don't know if you had seen it and was able to put it in there, but Dr. Revis has it.
I have not seen it. I know the video you're talking about.
She'll put it in your course shell as well. But this tells you step by step what you do, and what you don't do. This is the narrative for the video. The only thing that I can tell you, I've gone in there and played with it. I looked at it. It's not hard. You just have to take the time and listen to the video, listen to Dr. Lamb, and then take this document and it will tell you how to set it up. Just remember the document that the survey that Dr. Revis talked about in task 1. When you go in there, you will use those 5 statements in there to set it up with a no and a yes. You will use that. Everybody will do that. Then you have to send it to Dr. Stone. You have to send it to Dr. Stone because he's our program chair. and you send it to him, and that's what we've got in yellow here on this document. When you create your survey, you cannot distribute. You must collaborate your survey with Dr. Stone. When you build your survey, you must collaborate it at wstone1@gardnerwebb.edu, and he's aware that these will coming in. He will copy, publish, and collaborate it back to you so you can distribute it using the single-use link. Be sure that your first and last name is in the title of the survey. So when you create it, it's going to tell you who to send it to. Who do you send it to? You do not send it to Dr. Revis. You do not send it to me. You send it to Dr. Stone. Dr. Revis and I do not have the rights to be able to go in there and do anything with this. It has to go to Dr. Stone. And he will take what care, and then you can move on. You will get a message back from him or from Qualtrics saying that it has been approved and you can administer it. Okay, Stuart?
Yes, sir. I was just wondering, what is the expected normal time frame for us to submit our Qualtrics survey to Dr. Stone? Like, at what point should we have that completed?
If you can go ahead, and because we're telling you what to do, you can go ahead and do that. You can do it tonight if you want to. We don't care. You can do it. I would go ahead and get that done this week, because you know that's what you know everybody's going to use that. So you can go ahead and get that task over with. And I will tell you, work with your Zoom teams. If somebody goes through this first, reach out to your Zoom team and say, I figured it out, and meet with your teams and just, collaborate with each other and help each other out if you can with this. Again, it's not difficult, but sometimes we make things more difficult.
Now, one thing that we did not mention, or that I didn't hear mentioned,
what's that?
Is you need to run this by your principal first.
Right.
Make sure your principal knows what you're going to survey on, and he or she will probably give you a time frame in which to do it. But make sure you get principal approval before you send your colleagues in his or her school this survey.
Right.
Okay?
And just remember, you will put that in your narrative work that I received approval from my principal to be able to, and the 5 questions come from, in North Carolina, they're exactly from the teacher working condition survey. You will see those same 5 things in that survey. So, Nicole?
Nicole, you're muted.
My question is, the 5 questions are the ones that are listed, the no, the yes.
Right, those 5 statements, yes.
So we're just copying and pasting
That's all
and
you're
sending
doing.
that to Dr. Stone and saying, I need this loaded into Qualtrics.
Well, no, you got to set up Qualtrics. You've got to set up Qualtrics.
Okay, we're going to be told how to do that.
Well, that's what we've just been talking about. It's in the video that Dr. Lamb shows you. You've got to go through the video, and you've got to go. This narrative work here talks about it. You've got to go through that, and then once you've done that, I've asked the Zoom teams to consider coming together and helping each other out with this process.
Yeah, you go ahead and set it up in Qualtrics, and what you're doing is sending it to Dr. Stone for him to approve, and then he will publish and get it back to you. But it has to be published.
You submit it through the Qualtrics process.
Yes.
Though. You have to go through Qualtrics to send it to Dr. Stone. But that video and this will tell you how to do it. This is the step-by-step of how to do it. Okay.
Have you already talked to them about where to find that Qualtrics?
Okay. No, I told them where to find the information in, let me
Okay.
pull this up. Okay, let me go back here. Let me come out of that. Come out of that. When you open up your course shell, you will find, that's not it. I got to go out of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Institution page. Okay.
I've never seen it here.
That's not it, Dr. Rivers. Where?
No, go
Where-
back to that tab that says home looking glass up at the top, very top of your screen. Go on up. Home looking glass. So come on over. No, come on over to the right.
Oh, there. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
here
where
it is.
you land when
Here
you,
it is. I'm
yeah, it's
sorry.
where you
Here it
land.
is. Where you land, yes. Okay. When you click here, it's probably going to tell you that you don't have access to it. So this is where you will go. Qualtrics sign in. Let me see. It's asking me to do
It's
something.
expired, yeah.
Give me a second. Let me log back in. Okay, this is what, when you do that, this is what's going to show up. And then those directions are going to tell you what you begin doing here. Say, create a new project. It's going to, Dr. Lamb's going to show you how you begin using this page, and then it'll take you, it's a step-by-step process, but you've got to listen to what he has to say, and you've got to read what he has to say. Take notes while you're going along, but it tells you step by step what you need to do. Again, remember on the home page, Qualtrics sign in. That's where when he talks about signing into Qualtrics, he may tell you to go here, but this is probably what you're going to get forbidden. So don't worry about that. Go to Qualtrics sign in, and this is where it all begins. I think that's all, Dr. Revis, is it? You've got to play with it, and you've got to figure it out. Okay, Dr. Revis can't hear you. Can't hear you, Dr. Revis.
I'm going to call on somebody to tell me the answer to this. Do I administer the survey in task 1? Yes or no? Up for yes, down no. Do I administer the survey or the walkthroughs in task 1? No. Very good. All I'm doing is identifying them, telling them where they came from, and just identifying them. Now, as an outgrowth of task 1, of course, you can go ahead and set up this survey in Qualtrics. Okay. But you do not administer it until A, you get your permission from your principal, and B, it's set up in Qualtrics and been published and sent back to you.
Okay. Now, don't stress out over task 2, but you're going to see how everything you've done in task 1, how it aligns to what you're going to do in task 2. Task 2 also has 2 prompts. You will use the instruments from task 1 to collect data in task 2. So everything that you've done in task 1, relates to what you're going to be doing in task 2. Using the survey from task 1, you will analyze the results for teacher perception of empowerment and leadership in the school. In addition, you will collect data via walkthroughs, observations in the school over a period of, and we say 5 routine days. It's what, as long as you get it done in that week, you figure it out by assessing the observable practices in the school. This is exactly what you see. Now, before, remember in task 1, we said it's what the research says. This is what you actually see in your school, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It doesn't matter. It's what you see. As you're wearing the hat of a principal now, the eyes of a principal. That's what you're doing. You're encouraged to conduct informal interviews with teachers as well, and you can do this in you can call it focus groups, and you can work and go into existing PLCs and talk with the 3rd grade PLC or the 9th grade social studies PLC, whatever, use opportunities. But this is, and you're a teacher there, or you're a worker at that school. So it's okay this time to even put what you know about your school and your perceptions as well. So this is, this time your opinion counts a little bit. Once you have collected your surveys and analyzed results and have completed the observable practices in the school, you are to respond to these results narratively by addressing the 5 items in prompt number 1. Now, what you're going to find when we get there, those 5 headings that Dr. Revish talked about in prompt and task 1, guess what? They're the same 5 headings again in task 2. Remember, in task 1, it was not what Marissa thought, Nicole thought, what Dr. Revis thought. It was what the research says. But this time, you've got that same heading, building efficacy and empowerment among staff. You will narratively respond to the survey results. This is what teachers, that what you see based on your observations, you can interview your principal, your assistant principal, your curriculum coach. When you do walkthroughs, what do you see as our biggest problems? What do you see as your biggest concerns? So you can interview people in leadership already. Again, your perceptions count here as well, but you're using your survey results and you're going to write about it. Now, you're not going to regurgitate everything that you wrote in task 1, but you're going to come back and you're going to introduce it with just a briefing of the literature, because you've got to, you can't just put the survey results in there without leading into it. And you could say the research says blah 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 blah, and you're going to talk about it, and you're going to just briefly talk about that, but you're going to say that during my walkthroughs, during my informal observations, during my focus groups, during my interviews with administration, and it goes on and on and on. This is what I have found in my school based on that particular topic. This is exactly how you and the staff perceive things. It's the perception. Okay? The research says this in task 1, but this is what is actually happening in my school. Now, you see my hand up here? This is the research. This is what happens. There's a gap in there, isn't there? You see? So the whole purpose of this, the research says this is actually what's happening. So by the time you get to task 3, guess what? Your job is to come up with a plan to do what? Close the gap. You see? You see how it all works together? You're going to do the same thing for all 5 areas. Results-oriented professional development. You will narratively respond to the survey results. Notice I said narratively. All of this is narrative work. Again, this is actually what the teachers think, what administration tells you, what leadership says, what you know, what you see, what your perceptions are based on, everything that you are doing with this. And you're going to address all 5. You're going to address all 5 questions that way, or 5 prompts that way. Before we go any further, do you
And I just want to say,
Go ahead, Dr. Revis.
I just want to say this, if I could. You will pull a lot of your data for these 5 prompts from your survey data.
Right.
Now there will be you put in walkthrough data where you can, but you're not going to be able to discern teachers have input on the budget in a walkthrough instrument, right? That's just not going to fit. That data is not going to fit to answer, this kind of question. So, in professional development or whatever. So, you've got to rely heavily on your survey data for this. And one of the reasons we wrote this up, this is tough writing because you are interpreting results and you're writing it in a certain way with a lot of percentages, etc.
Right. And remember, you can do interviews as well. You can do one-on-one interviews, or you can do group interviews. Okay, again, in task 1, you will research the best practices for teacher empowerment and leadership in the school. In task 2, you will take these same 5 areas and analyze the gaps between what the research says from task 1 to what was actually observed in each of those areas in the school for task 2, prompt number 1. Gaps in these 5 areas are to be addressed in narrative form using APA format and referencing sources identified in the literature as applicable. Okay, now prompt 1, everything is narrative work. Dr. Revis, what does prompt 2 look like?
Well, that's going to be some graphics. You're going to graphically display your summary of your survey data, right? And you can there's a place you can click in Qualtrics and get that survey data. And now you just don't copy and paste and put it on there. You need some narrative work with it as well. And for example, you would do an introduction. I always say to my doctoral students, when you put a figure in your work, you introduce it, tell them what it is, what they're going to see. You put the figure in, and then you discuss the data that's in the figure. It's kind of like a sandwich effect. Introduce, figure, and then interpretation. So you do that with your Qualtrics survey data, and you do that with a summary of your walkthrough data. Now, what we do not want, if you observe walkthroughs in 3 classrooms, we don't want those 3 individual classroom teachers walkthrough instruments. What we want is a summary of what you gathered when you did your walkthroughs. And so again, you're presenting a figure, introduce it, figure, explain it. And this is an example of explaining the walkthrough data first.
Make sure you make it big enough that it's visible to see.
Yeah.
And again, this is just an example. You can come up with your own, your own format, but again, you are visually, graphically explaining what you've talked about in the narrative portion. You're showing it. You're showing the results with actual, with percentages.
And so down below it, I would expect some narrative about what areas that you feel like you didn't see these practices. Maybe those are areas that you want to look at for later on in your action plan.
And Dr. Revis, it's always good, while you're looking, don't always look, look for the good things too. And you can say, wow, my school, it appears my school is very proficient at blah, blah, blah. And you can say that. Survey results and observations reveal that we have weaknesses in the following area or areas. I'm just using that as an example.
Mm-hmm.
This is the actual survey from Whitaker that everybody's required to do. Look what they've done. You can do the same thing. These are the results.
And that's the summary.
That's the summary of the results from the survey. It said that 41% said yes, 59% said no on teacher has input on professional development offerings at the school. Well, it's almost like 50-50. So there's a problem there. Because those are really not, that's really not a high number, is it, Doctor? 41% is pretty low for the whole staff. Wouldn't you think so,
Right.
Dr. Revis? So, I mean,
Oh, I think so.
there's some areas of concern there.
You want to see, what you want to see is a lot of strong yeses, but in your narrative that would follow this summary data, you could just say, as you can see, discern from the chart, that the figure 4, our biggest area for improvement and teacher empowerment is, really refer back to your data.
And remember, this column should be no, and this should be yes.
Right, it should be switched.
It should be switched. Look down here. This is taking that same information and breaking it into, and this is probably, they may have gotten this, Dr. Revis, from the Qualtrics survey. Survey results for empowerment as a school leader in pie chart from Whitaker. You can create your own. Teacher has input on professional development. This is another way of just graphically showing it. It tells a story. It tells a picture. And when you look at this and you see that teacher plays a role in the development of school improvement plan, look, your school's doing pretty good there, or real good. It's just a small portion, but you still want to know why 18% feel like they're disconnected somewhere, even though that's good. That's just another way of doing that. And you need to be creative and and I will tell you, the evaluators and us too, it says multiple. So multiple means more than 2. So you've got to put some information there. If you can put something in there that shows actually what walkthroughs look like in your school, based on what the principal says, results like that, that's just great other information. Your personal walkthroughs that you do, you can create some type of information to show what you see, during your walkthroughs. So, okay, Dr. Revis, would you take the next part?
Okay, so this is kind of a summary of all the work that you've done in task 2. And you need to end task 2 with a gap analysis. This is where you take your survey data, your walkthrough data, and you synthesize it. And you talk about, of all the things, the data I've collected, what are the one or two things that seem like to be the most pressing need? Now, don't tell me nothing. It's kind of like this. I've had students who say everything looks great. No, be relative. Make it relative. You've got to pick some areas to show a gap, but you want to pick the ones that show the most gap. Okay. And it needs to be a combination of things from your walkthrough and things from your survey. You might want to identify a couple areas from your walkthrough and a couple areas from your survey that you feel like need to be worked on.
And again, the examples in there, they're not APA perfect, because look at there, I just saw this. What's wrong with this, guys? What I'm circling now. What is wrong with that?
Needs to be numbers.
It needs to be numbers. So just please be cognizant of that. And don't, if you see something wrong, don't model after it. Okay. Okay. And then you know that, okay, you're not, I think we've done enough with that. Let me see. I'm going to stop share. Okay, before we're going to just close up briefly in just a few minutes with some questions about task stream or whatever. But do you see how task 1 and task 2 are completely aligned? You're building the foundation in task 1, and you're actually building the house in task 2. So it all works hand. Now remember, I know it's a lot tonight, but remember, you've got the rest of this week, and you've got, 2 weeks after this before everything is due. Task 1, and I would go ahead, task 1, once you do your research, the other part is going to come. I would get that to Dr. Reffis and me as soon as possible. And you know why? It clears you to be able to go ahead and do the legwork that you've got to do with task 2. So don't procrastinate with task 1 and say, well, I've got until not this Sunday night, but the next Sunday night to get that done. I wouldn't wait until then. I would go ahead and get my task 1 done so that I would have plenty of time to do the legwork for task 2. Okay. Task 1, once you get started, task 1 is not going to take you the amount of time. The research is going to take some time, but other than that, I think you can clear task 1 pretty quickly. Okay, Savannah.
Yes. Okay. So just thinking big picture, AAPTEL, are these gaps that we're doing the gap analysis for, are they going to lead into the action plan later?
Absolutely. Yes. That's that.
Okay.
You're going to use all this information when you get to task 3.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay, Stuart.
Sorry, I don't mean to be focused on assignments and submissions. So are we submitting task 1 to you before we move on to task 2?
Yes, you have to. You have to get task 1 approved.
Yeah, okay, that's all in the grade book?
Yeah, in grade book. You do it like you've done all the other tasks. You put it in there for instructor, and the peer reviews start after task 1 goes into grade book. So you start your peer reviews again. Okay. The good thing about it, you only have 3 sets of peer reviews this time, not 4. So that helps a little bit. Guys, I think once you think about this, you've already proven what you're capable of doing. You've already proven that to us. I think once you think about this, I think you'll establish a plan, and I know you'll be able to move forward with this. Rely on each other. Remember, that's why the Zoom teams are set up. You have formed relationships with people. Um, um, let's say, for instance, Erica and Priscilla are in the same group. Erica runs into a bind and she says, Lord, I can't figure out what to do there. She should be able to send Priscilla a message and say, can we talk? And, Priscilla may have some insight into something that will say, oh, that's what it is, and vice versa. So use each other, help each other out. That's part of the purpose of having the teams that we have established. Okay, any more
Okay, and
questions?
I
Savannah's
need to
throwing kisses
see
at us.
Marissa.
Dr. Revis?
My baby's going to bed. I was waving goodnight.
I know. I knew what you were doing. But Dr. Revis, let's just briefly before we close out, let's talk about the internship logs that were submitted this week for mid-semester.
All right. I think I told you last week that the mistake that's frequently made is you try to get too many supervision hours. At this point, I should only be seeing 5 supervision hours. Okay. Some of you did some beautiful redesigned the log and did some beautiful work. I'm okay with that.
And I am too.
I think everything's going to be fine. You've got all the essentials on it. Some of you got too many hours. Some of you, counted one thing several different times, and it may not have been the same thing, but the way you described it, it looked like the same thing. So we may have sent them back to you to get a little more description. But overall, I'm pleased with what I saw. We've just got a few things to clean up.
Dr. Revis, no leadership activity should be repeated over and over again, the same one. You should have multiple experiences. Now, you can do it and you need to be able to work, but you can't count it over and over again. Okay?
Exactly.
We've got to see multiple experiences. And just remember, no matter what you did up to this point, if it was 105 hours, 110 hours, you still got to do 100 hours for the AAPTEL. Okay? Because we've got to see AAPTEL, all that time is going to be needed to be able to do the AAPTEL. So you can't say I did 150 hours, with the AAPTEL, and then all I got is 50 hours left. Okay? So you've got to plow the road to the end for the AAPTEL as well. Okay? Remember,
Stephen, if I could,
the competencies are due this coming Sunday. Dr. Revis, I've gotten several of yours already and cleared them, and they did excellent work, the ones that I have cleared.
Good. And then you've got your case study due this Sunday.
Yeah, and I told them about that already.
Okay.
So I went over that.
I need to see Marissa Russell and Kelly Emanuel. If you will stay, as I told you that we would try to talk briefly here.
And Solomon has a question before we sign out.
Hi, Rico.
Hi, how you doing? Just want to make sure I understand. We all said multiple leadership activities listed twice. Let's say, because I've done multiple interviews. Are you saying that I can't do 2 interviews put on there, or are you saying
you make it put 2 on there, but you cannot? That can't be. We can't repeatedly do that. You've had that experience. You need to look for other experiences. Okay.
But 2 should be fine.
2 should be fine,
Rico.
Solomon. Rico, what you submitted to me this time was good. You saw my notes on that, didn't you? Okay, it's just, just look back at the discussion, and what you have submitted to me is fine, with what we've talked about. Okay. Okay, Savannah, do you have another question?
Yeah, just wanting to be really clear. Nothing new has to go into task stream this week, right?
Nothing goes into task stream this week. Now, remember, if you've cleared, you've got to give us the screenshot. Some of you still have not turned your screenshot in. That's a final score on that. And just remember your competencies, the 12 competencies that you will submit them in your internship shell, just like you did the logs, and there's a place for that. Okay.
Okay, the screenshot is of our score report for the APTEL.
Right. I've seen them all in, but we still have to have it in the grade book. So
Okay,
let's just put that in there.
got it.
So Lita, you have another question?
I did. It was about the walkthroughs. Do the walkthroughs have to be with EOC teachers?
No, not necessarily. No. But you want to, I would look for a diversity of teachers. Don't let it all be, teachers that teach non-EOC. Don't let it be all of them. But I would have a diversity of things. And listen, try to go in areas that's out of your comfort zone, areas that that you normally would not be, if you can. Try to find some diversity in what you do, not all on your grade level. Or, if you teach sixth grade, you're familiar with them. So don't let it all be sixth grade teachers. Look for other opportunities.
And in high school, if you visit the arts or, health and PE classes, you can, but you also need to get a good smattering of your academic classes as well, because those things are going to be hard to see in the arts classes and health and PE classes.
And remember, you're not going in to do an evaluation. It's a walkthrough. And
Right.
10 to 15 minutes, 15 minutes gives you a good walkthrough is about 15 minutes. Okay. That means that you probably, if you work it well, you can do more than 3. And I would try to do 5 at least. I would try hard, because that gives you enough information that you can validly talk about some things. Okay. Okay, guys, you're going to be okay. But just don't sit on this. Go ahead and get started. This should be, as far as Gardner Webb's concerned, this is going to be uninterrupted time. So go ahead and get started on things, and I know you will. Okay, we will see you. In the meantime, if you need Dr. Revis and me, you can reach out to us, but we will not be coming online until 2 weeks from tonight. Okay. Okay, guys, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Good
And
night.
those that Dr. Revis needed to see, please hang on.